do too. And we're very pleased that you and Ethel have chosen to come and live in our community. We hope that you might be part of our church family as well. Yeah. Okay. We've done lots of praying today. And I was going to say, I'm not sure, I was going to pray for you specifically, Doug, but I've been praying so much for you, I think God's ear's been ear-bashed already, so I'll leave it at that. And we look forward to what you've got to say.
I don't think the Lord's nervous about that. It'll be quite okay. Well, good morning, everyone. Good to be here again with you. After the service last Sunday, I had someone come to me with a fairly serious complaint, and I had to make an apology, and I apologise again, and I hope to correct that right now. The complaint had to do with the fact that I didn't bring a joke last week. So here we go. Two guys are out hunting, and as they're walking along, they came upon a huge hole in the ground. They approached it and are amazed at the size of it. First hunter says, "Wow, that's some hole. Can't even see the bottom. I wonder how deep it is." The second hunter says, "I don't know. Let's throw something down there, listen and see how long it takes to hit the bottom." First hunter says, "Hey, here's an old automobile transmission over there. Give me a hand and let's throw it in and see." So they pick it up, carry it over, count 1, 2, 3, heave it in the hole. And they're standing there listening, looking over the edge when they hear a rustling behind them. And as they turn around, they see a goat come crashing through the underbrush, run up to the hole and without hesitation jump in head first. And while they're standing staring at each other in amazement, trying to figure out what that was all about, an old farmer saunters by and says, "Say, if you fellas didn't happen to see my goat around here anywhere, did you?" First hunter says, "Funny you should ask. But we were just standing here a minute ago and a goat came running out of the bushes doing about 100 miles an hour, jumped headfirst into this hole." The old farmer said, "No, that's impossible. I am chained to a transmission." Sorry for all you animal and goat lovers out there. For the person who complained, that's your blame him. So over these weeks, we're taking some time to look at this theme, walking in the dust of our Rabbi Jesus, and remembering that the New Testament came to us and the Bible came to us from a Hebrew background. And sometimes I think we kind of forget it. So over these weeks, I've been trying to think about this from a perspective, from a Hebrew culture of the Bible, and it's done with some research as best I can, particularly from a book by the same title from Lois Teverberg, and she has written some very, very stuff, a lot of research, years and years and years of research. So today I want to talk about the theme of chutzpah. Anybody heard of that? It's used a lot in America, but we probably don't hear it much around here, but chutzpah is a very interesting word. It's talking about praying with chutzpah. And a rabbi called Abraham Heschel said, praying with chutzpah. The issue of prayer is not prayer. The issue of prayer is God. So it's all about that this morning. Chutzpah. It means insolent, cheeky, audacious, outrageous, bold. It's got a whole bunch of meanings surrounding it. It's actually a Yiddish word, and without going into too much, the Hebrew and Yiddish, they're kind of together. It's kind of a bit of a dialect, I suppose. But it means courage, mettle, something like that today. It has that kind of meaning. So in her chapter on chutzpah, in her book, Lois Teverberg writes this, and I'm just going to read it to you because You might be able to get something of this out of it. A surefire way to immerse yourself in the culture of Israel is to take a public bus in Jerusalem. Because of the bumper-to-bumper traffic, everybody, rich and poor, rides the Egged buses around town. Ethiopian Jews wrapped in swaths of white fabric sit next to wizened Russian babushkas. College-age girl in army fatigue chats on a cell phone. Little boys in black suits clamber up the huge steps, side curls and tassels bouncing in the breeze, their long-skirted, headscarfed mothers following closely behind. And one afternoon when I was riding downtown, I got an even stronger taste of the culture. A grey-haired, matronly retiree climbed aboard, plunked herself into an empty seat halfway back. She hadn't, however, paid any fare. She just shuffled past the driver, feigning ignorance. Craning to make eye contact with her in his mirror, the driver called back to her over the crowd. I can't pronounce the Hebrew, so I won't say it. But it's, "Where to, man?" That's really what he's saying. "Where to?" At first she stared out the window, pretending not to notice, and then, "Aye," says it again. Whole bus looked on. Finally she barked back a gruff response, completely impenitent, and then a flurry of indecipherable Hebrew filled the air, the gist of which was obvious: either pay a ticket or get off. But the woman was immovable, glued to her seat, adamant. The driver threw up his hands at her. Universal, widely used Israeli gesture of annoyance and disgust. And the bus didn't move either. Right in the middle of this street, a major artery with only a single drivable lane, the driver shifted into park, snapped open a newspaper, sat back to read the headlines. Blocks and blocks of traffic snaked to a standstill behind us. After what seemed forever, the woman slowly rose, exited the side doors. Half of Jerusalem came to a stop for this lady. That's what you call chutzpah. Utter nerve, sheer audacity that borders on obnoxiousness. Both the woman and the bus driver knew how to push the boundaries of propriety for their purposes. She said, and this is her experience, if you grew up in a small town Midwestern like me, from America, you'd find this behaviour nearly unimaginable. I came from the land of Minnesota nice, where we'd rather die than violate our code of mild-mannered courteousness. For me, the bus ride was a cultural journey to the ends of the earth. We're not in Minnesota anymore, Toto. You know, I've got a feeling we might be a little bit like that, possibly in Kiwiland. We're a little bit, we play down things, you know. We don't complain when a meal comes to us in a restaurant and it's not right, usually. Who laughed? Who did that? Some of us might complain, that's for sure. But an attitude of chutzpah has been part of the Middle East culture, it's Eastern culture really, since ancient times. So if you're one of Jesus' first century disciples, you'd be familiar with this kind of behavior. And it's this kind of behavior that we actually read of in prayer and encounter with Jesus during his time with us on earth. So the first one is the Syrophoenician woman. She's really a Canaanite, a non-Jew, an unbeliever. And she wouldn't take no for an answer after pleading with Jesus to heal her daughter. And I want to read to you this passage from Matthew 15. From there, Jesus took a trip to Tyre and Sidon. They had hardly arrived when a Canaanite woman came down from the hills and pleaded, "Mercy, Master, Son of David, my daughter is cruelly afflicted by an evil spirit." Jesus ignored her. The disciples came and complained, "Now she's bothering us. Why would you please take care of her? She's driving us crazy." Jesus refused, telling them, "I've got my hands full dealing with the lost sheep of Israel." And then the woman came back to Jesus, dropped to her knees and begged, "Master, help me." He said, "It's not right to take bread out of children's mouths and throw it to dogs." She was quick. "You're right, Master, but beggar dogs they get scraps from the Master's table." And Jesus gave in, and he says, "Woman, Your faith is something else. What you want is what you get. And right then, her daughter became well. Chutzpah. She wasn't going to take no for an answer. And here is something that just doesn't happen. An unbelieving Canaanite woman comes and bothers Jesus about her daughter. She knew something. She wanted to experience this incredible power of the one that she had heard about, the Messiah, the healer. And she wasn't going to give up. So, I won't go into what the dogs referred to, apart from the fact that dogs are generally considered, it was probably a pet animal, the word for this one, and Gentiles, non-Jews, were given that title in the culture of the day. So that was one occasion, chutzpah. And the second one is this, a widow looking for justice. And this is really quite fun. This is from Luke 18. Jesus told them a story showing that it was necessary for them to pray consistently and never quit. That's the theme. Pray consistently and never quit. And he said, there was once a judge in some city who never gave God a thought, cared nothing for people. A widow in that city kept after him. My rights are being violated. Protect me. He never gave her the time of day. But after this went on and on, he said to himself, the conversation you have with yourself, I care nothing what God thinks, even less what people think, but because this widow won't quit bothering me, badgering me, I better do something and see that she gets justice. Otherwise, I'm going to end up beaten black and blue by her pounding. By the way, this is from the Message translation. Then the master said, do you hear what that judge, corrupt as he is saying? So what makes you think God won't step in and work justice for his chosen people who continue to cry out for help? Won't he stick up for them? I assure you he will. He will not drag his feet. But how much of that kind of persistent faith will the Son of Man find on the earth when he returns? There's a message or two for a few weeks in there as well. How much persistent faith will the Son of Man find on the earth when he returns? I'd like to suggest to you that sometimes we pray and then give up. We don't get an answer. We live in an instant coffee culture, don't we? If it doesn't happen like that, we give up. Chutzpah is not giving up. It's grabbing hold of God, and I'm going to hang on here until you bless me. Chutzpah. So to catch Jesus' drift, you need to hear the irony of this conversation, of this parable. The judge in the parable cares nothing about the needs of the widow, but God is actually the very opposite to that. He cares deeply about widows. He's father to the fatherless, a defender of widows. And I looked up what that word defender really means. It means it's a chauffeur or a judge. He is one who brings justice in the sense of defending the helpless and vindicating those who are wrong. There's an awful lot of injustice in our world today. Would you agree with that? I mean, seriously. We need to plead about that. But the story here is about this hard-boiled judge. Didn't care much about anything. As someone who was an official, a court official, that he couldn't be further from God's reality. You can almost hear and see Jesus kind of, I won't say smirking because it sounds a bit irreligious, but he makes it an ironic comparison. He said, a callous court official will help out an old lady who keeps pestering him. How much more will God passionately cares for widows and orphans? How much will he care for them and step up for them and look out for them? How much more? And so this was a kind of a Hebrew way. The rabbis of the day would do this kind of, they called it light and heavy sort of an arrangement when they spoke. This is light, this is heavy. How much more would God do this? So it's kind of an ironic situation, really. So Jesus was exhorting his disciples to be persistent in prayer, prodding us to boldly hang on to God. Chutzpah. And then, third one, when guests arrive unexpectedly. In the culture of the day, oh boy, when guests arrive, you've got to take care of them. You've got to feed them, you know. This is found in Luke 11. And then he said to them, imagine. He wants them to take a mental journey. Imagine what would happen if you went to a friend in the middle of the night and said, friend, lend me 3 loaves of bread. An old friend travelling through just showed up and I don't have a thing on hand. The friend answers from his bed, don't bother me, the door's locked. My children are all down for the night. I can't get up and give you anything. But let me tell you, even if he won't get up because he's a friend, if you stand your ground, knocking and waking all the neighbours, he'll finally get up and get you whatever you need. Chutzpah. Here's what I'm saying. Ask and you'll get. Seek and you'll find. Knock and the door will open. You've heard those words before. And this is from verse 10 in the passage. Don't bargain with God. Be direct. Ask for what you need. This is not a cat and mouse hide and seek game we're in. If your little boy asks for a serving of fish, do you scare him with a live snake on his plate? If your little girl asks for an egg, do you trick her with a spider? As bad as you are, you wouldn't think of such a thing. You're at least decent to your own children. And don't you think the Father who conceived you in love will give the Holy Spirit when you ask him? How much more will God give to those who ask him? So he's using that light and heavy thing again. How much more? So he's talking about chutzpah. Can you imagine that scene in the culture of the day? And this lazy guy wouldn't even get up and give him what he needed. Don't bother me. Door's locked. Children are in bed. I can't get up and give you anything. But he keeps on until he gets what he needs. He keeps on. How much more would God do that for you if you keep on asking and reminding God what you need? It's called chutzpah. It's bold. It's audacious. It's outrageous. This is what it says in Psalm 121. He who watches over Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord will watch over your coming and going, both now and forevermore. How much more will a loving God answer our bold, persistent prayers? It all started with Abraham. Just want to go there. The Jewish tradition of boldness stretches all the way back to Father Abraham, way back in time, the founder of the faith, if you will. In Genesis 18, Abraham had a conversation with God. This could shock us. I know some of you, if not all of you, have possibly read this, but it could shock us. Are you ready for it? When God informed Abraham of his plans to destroy Sodom because of its wickedness, Abraham responded with protests and bargaining. Chutzpah. Just listen to this from Genesis 18. Will you sweep away the righteous with the wicked? Far be it from you to do such a thing. He's talking to God, remember. Far be it for you to do such a thing, to kill the righteous with the wicked, treating the righteous and the wicked alike. Far be it from you. Will not the judge of all the earth do right? And then he haggles with God over the town, over the city. What if there are 50 righteous people? God, what if there are 50? Would you spare it for 50? How about 45? Would you spare it for 45? He's talking to God. What about 30? Would you spare it for 30? What about 20? Would you spare it for 10 people? And God said, yes, I'll spare the city for 10 people. Chutzpah. Outrageous. Bold. It almost sounds irreligious, doesn't it? Doesn't sound like we should pray like that. We're used to being reverent and nice and humble. These are desperate people that really want to hear from God. And they, as far as Abraham is concerned, he is passionate about his city. He wants to see that city saved. How passionate am I about our town, Te Anau? Do we want to see it saved? What's the chutzpah involved in making that happen? Hear the message there. So we might think it extremely religious, but it's his boldness, asking the questions, God's not nervous. Absolutely not. It actually honours him. So what I'd like us to do, this is a fairly long clip to watch and listen to. Has any of you seen the play, the musical, The Fiddler on the Roof? Oh, good. It's an oldie but a goodie, way back from 71 or something like that. But it's set in 1905 Russia, a little town in Russia, and it's a Jewish situation. And Tevye is the main character here, and he's talking with God. And I hope you pay, the cinematography is not that wonderful to have a look at, but I hope you'll get the message of this. And if you'll stay right to the end of the clip and watch the expression on Tevye's face as he looks to the heavens, you will enjoy this.
Dear God, was that necessary? Did you have to make him lame just before the Sabbath? That wasn't nice. It's enough you pick on me. Bless me with 5 daughters, a life of poverty. That's all right. But what have you got against my horse? Really, sometimes I think, when things are too quiet up there, you say to yourself, let's see, what kind of mischief can I play on my friend Tevye?
Aha! So you're finally here, my breadwinner.
I'll talk to you later.
So why are you late today?
His foot went lame.
Well, hurry up. The sun won't wait, and I have something important to say to you.
Still have some deliverers in the village.
You'll be late for the Sabbath.
I won't be late.
You'll be late.
I won't be late. I won't be late. If you ever stop talking, I won't be late.
You can die from such a man.
As the good book says, heal us, O Lord, and we shall be healed. In other words, send us the cure. We've got the sickness already. Well, I'm not really complaining. After all, with your help. Yeah. I'm starving to death. Oh, dear Lord. You made many, many poor people. I realize, of course, it's no shame to be poor. But it's no great honor either. So what would have been so terrible if I had a small fortune? If I were a rich man, yabba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dum. All day long I biddy-biddy-bum. If I were a wealthy man, I wouldn't have to work hard. Yabba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dum. If I were a bitty rich, idle man, I'd build a big tall house with rooms by the dozen right in the middle of the town. A fine tin roof with real wooden floors below. There would be one long staircase just going up and one even longer coming down, and one more leading nowhere just for show. I'd fill my yard with the chicks and turkeys and geese and ducks for the town to see and hear, squawking just as noisily as they can. And each loud will land like a trumpet on the ear, as if to say, here lives a wealthy man. If I were a rich man, yabba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dum, all day long I biddy-biddy-bum. If I were a wealthy man, I wouldn't have to work hard. Yabba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dum. If I were a bitty-bitty rich, idle-diddle-diddle-diddle man, I see my wife, my Goldie, looking like a rich man's wife with a proper double chin, supervising meals to her heart's delight. I see her putting on airs and strutting like a peacock. Oh, what a happy mood she's in. Screaming at the servants day and night. The most important man in town will come to phone on me. They will ask me to advise them like a Solomon the wise. If you please, Rebetavia, pardon me, Rebetavia, posing problems that would cross a rabbi's eyes. And it won't make one bit of difference if I answer right or wrong. When you're rich, they think you really know. If I were rich, I'd have the time that I like to sit in the synagogue and pray, and maybe have a seat by the eastern wall. And I discuss the holy books with the learned men 7 hours every day. And that would be the sweetest thing of all. If I were a rich man, yabba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dum, all day long I biddy-biddy-bum. If I were a wealthy man, I wouldn't have to work hard. Yabba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dibba-dum. Lord, who made the lion and the lamb, you decreed I should be what I am. Would it spoil some vast eternal plan? If I were a wealthy man.
When you read the Psalms, you read the chutzpah in them, don't you, quite often? Will it change the way we pray? We're just about to close with our final song. But I don't know how well you can see this picture. This sculpture thing I gave to my husband for Christmas. He used to be an enthusiastic fisherman. The song that we are about to sing is I Will Make You Fishers of Men. And I thought, even when we're old and rusty, God can still make us fishers of men, and we can still be successful for God. So thank you. Anything else you want to say about the last?